Hello, welcome to another movie review, and I feel very strange in this one because it is currently -11 here in Norway, which is just fantastic. And so from the waist down, I'm all blanketed up. I got a hot water bottle, and I'm just, yeah, the show must go on, I guess. I'm here to talk about the 2017 film Okja from Bong Joon-ho, the Korean director who I've seen many films from. He definitely appears to be the front runner in terms of Korean directors who have a name value around the world and have kind of broken past the confines of making films in their own country now. Clearly, in this kind of co-production, I suppose, we have American actors in this film, we have Korean actors in this film. Was produced and released on Netflix, which was really interesting. Apparently when it was screened at Cannes Film Festival, when the Netflix logo was shown on screen, people booed. And it's like, come on, man, really? Are we still at that point where it's just like this taboo thing? Ooh, a movie made from Netflix can't be a real movie. I don't know. Anyway, the film itself. In fact, before I get to the film itself, my thoughts on Bong Joon-ho. I think he's a fantastic director. I've only seen a handful of his movies. I've seen Memories of Murder, which was brilliant. The Host, which is a really fun kind of monster movie. You can kind of see some of the similarities there in this film, I suppose, too. Then there was Snowpiercer, which I thought was fantastic. That was another one that was kind of dabbling in casting American actors and so on. Chris Evans, Ed Harris, etc. Tilda Swinton, who appears in this film too. So I really like everything I've seen from him so far, particularly Snowpiercer. I'm a big sucker for train movies, so that's probably one of my favorite films of this decade, I think. I loved Snowpiercer. So Okja, I was really intrigued by it. In fact, I was so kind of on board for this film that when I heard that it was happening, Netflix movie, Bong Joon-ho, it's about this big kind of fantasy creature, got an American cast, Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm like, whoa, just stop right there. I'm not looking at a trailer. I turned off the trailer that was playing on Twitter 10 seconds in, and I was like, no, there's no chance I'm spoiling myself a second of this more. I want to see this and just be completely surprised. But as it came out, I didn't get a chance to see it immediately, and people started reviewing it, and I started maybe looking at those reviews to see what people thought, and it was kind of disappointing. People were saying, yeah, it's good, but the second half is really just completely different from the first. That it kind of lets itself down, and not as good as his other films. I was like, oh, that's a shame. Anyway, I eventually got to it, and I loved it. I thought it was great, and I see people's criticisms with it. It does have a big tonal shift halfway through the film. Essentially, the first half takes place in Korea, the second half takes place in America, and we follow the characters on this journey. And in some sense, it's an action-adventure movie. In some senses, it's a very heavy drama, but it's set in this kind of fantasy world, really, because we're dealing with an animal that doesn't exist, the titular character Okja. The story revolves around a decision made by the Mirando Corporation. Is it Mirando or Miranda? I think it's Miranda. Played by Tilda Swinton. She's the woman who inherits the company from her father. She has a twin sister. And Miranda, she, announces this big project in 2007. We have these I think 26 piglets that have been genetically produced, genetically modified animals. They're not anything natural. They've been created. And these piglets are going to get sent all around the world to various different countries, and these farmers are going to take care of these piglets and help them grow into a fully formed adult animal, and basically see who has the best one. It's kind of like a show thing, and they make it a big kind of positive thing, oh, this is going to be great and all that kind of stuff, lots of PR going on, but really it's there for kind of mass consumption. It's there to make money, it's there to produce food. And 10 years later, 2017, we follow up with the search for the best animal, the best super pig, as they call it, I believe. Okja is the name of the super pig that is living in Korea and has been raised by a simple man up in the mountains along with his granddaughter, Mija. And I did just check, and it is the Mirando Corporation. So for some reason my brain went to Miranda, felt like a more natural thing, but it is Mirando. My instincts were correct. Anyway, so we have this young Korean girl, Mija, who very much is almost like a sister to Okja. She's almost around the same age as Okja in some ways, and grew up with this animal. And there's a lot of touching moments there that kind of tap into that interesting relationship that humans can have with animals. Even though Okja is this fictional animal that doesn't exist, it has the characteristics of these animals that we know in real life, and it's this huge thing. It's almost like a hippo in some sense, it's like a cat in other senses, it's like a pig in other senses. It has all these different elements, and I loved how it was realized on screen. I loved how the young Korean actress who played Mija interacted with this nothing. You know, obviously when acting there would be nothing there. There might have been guides, of course, you know, maybe like a pole on a stick or something, I don't know, but I feel like it must be very hard to do that. And a lot of times you'll hear actors and stuff get asked, how is it to act on a green screen? It must be so hard when there's nothing there, you know, so much harder than in real life. And the actors usually will say, well, that's kind of what you do when you're a kid. You imagine everything, it's not that hard. But at the same time, I do think something is there to be said for when an actor can kind of convincingly make you believe that they have this affection for something that they're not looking at in real life when they're shooting the movie, you know. I just totally bought into her love and affection for Okja. And the CGI I thought was very, very good. And, you know, we're getting to that time now where CGI is just integral to almost every film, even without you realizing it. Certain little details that you would never even think of have a CGI element to them, but there are these films where it is bright and loud and in your face. This is a CGI effect, but if it's done right and you believe it, you know, and you kind of get into the character, then it works. And in this case, I do think it works. Maybe there's a few seams around the edges, some of the CGI isn't perfect in some places, but I think they did a really great job, and you couldn't really do this story without doing that animal as a CGI creation, I feel. Now, the story kind of centers on Okja being the prized super pig and being transported back to America for this big kind of celebration, but there is something deeper lurking underneath the surface, and as I said, kind of alluding to, you know, mass consumption, mass production, slaughterhouses, all that kind of stuff. Very much a statement is there to be made, certainly by the end of the film, which is a pretty grim ending, I have to say. It certainly gives you something to think about. And I think that animal lovers will have a little bit of a hard time towards the end of the film. Not that there's anything extreme, but the implications are definitely there in terms of slaughterhouses and so on. And the character of Mija, she gets to kind of go on this journey of growing up in a way. She lives that carefree young life with Okja up in the mountains, in the forest. You know, they're very much there with nature, and everything is kind of carefree and innocent. And then when she goes to America, she kind of sees how things can be in the big, bad adult world. The statement that's there to be made about the slaughterhouses, but also it's, you know, it's heartfelt, which I think really makes it work, because it can be this kind of, you know, action adventure where, I mean, certainly in the first half of the film, I get that action adventure kind of feel. It had an almost Steven Spielberg-esque kind of Amblin feeling to it, you know. I definitely got that vibe from the first half of the film when Okja is being taken away from Mija and she goes chasing after Okja. And we have this incredible chase sequence in Korea. Like, I just thought that was probably the best part of the film. And especially the sequence when Okja is kind of rampaging through the city and goes down into, I think, that underground kind of shop. And just brilliant. And we get the introduction of these well, some American characters, but we also have Stephen Yeun, who plays Glenn, or played Glenn in The Walking Dead. Spoilers. He is one of the members of this Animal Liberation Front, I believe they call themselves, who are trying to, you know, stop this thing from happening. And they're there in Korea on the case to try and help out with Okja. And so they get involved, and that's when I thought, oh, this film's going in a different direction. But then it went in another direction, so I kind of liked where, because I didn't know what was really going to happen other than I'd heard that the film kind of changes halfway through. And I personally didn't mind the change. I thought there was a nice progression for the story. It took it into a different place, and I think that place was necessary and made it a more satisfying film overall, because yeah, the first half is fun and light and bouncy, but to give it more meat, no pun intended, the second half really fills the story up and makes it a much better experience in my opinion. Now, performance-wise, I loved Paul Dano, who plays kind of the ringleader of the Animal Liberation Front. He really, I mean, I mentioned heartfelt. His performance is so fucking earnest. You know, it's almost to the point of parody, I felt like, but to me, I bought into it, and I just so totally believed that he was just so moved to kind of help these animals and to do anything he could. This was his life. He lived it, he breathed it, he slept it, and he was willing to do anything for this cause. You know, it was his hill to die on, and I really felt that through the way he performed the character. So I liked that a lot. I liked a lot of the twists and turns that go throughout the film. One of the little twists, well not twists, but one of the little things I didn't like was how Tilda Swinton's character, who has a twin sister, we get introduced to her twin sister later on in the film, and there's a bit of a kind of turn in the story with where the twin sisters play into it, but I didn't like that very much. I felt like the whole twin sister thing was just a bit on the nose, you know. Yeah, she's playing the two characters. I didn't care very much about that. Tilda Swinton's great and all, but I didn't really care too much for that sister storyline that seemed to just be kind of shoehorned into the end there. Jake Gyllenhaal, one of my absolute favourite actors. I think that he might be one of the best actors of the past 10-15 years. You know, I never really thought too much of him, even back to Donnie Darko. That might change when I go watch that film again, but I remember when I watched Prisoners a few years ago, I thought, holy fuck, that's a performance. And I thought, where's this been hiding? But again, maybe I haven't seen some of Jake Gyllenhaal's better performances, you know, between Donnie Darko and Prisoners. I don't know, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's certainly got to be a few I haven't seen. But Prisoners is when I was like, whoa, okay. And then Nightcrawler, you know, and then even Southpaw, which a lot of people didn't like. You know, I think that he's a fantastic actor. And this film showed that even the best of actors can pull in a shit performance. I really couldn't stand him. The first scene was okay when he arrived in Korea. He was eccentric, you know, he was different, and I could see where he was going with it. But after that, you know, he wasn't just chewing the scenery, he wasn't just devouring the scenery, he was just being a glutton with the scenery and eating so much of it that he was throwing it up all over the screen again. Like, way too far, you know. I mean, in a way it sat with the tone of the film, which is quite wacky to begin with, but I think that he was pretty bad in the film. Which is a shame, because I love Jake Gyllenhaal, but hey, it is what it is, right? Anyway, overall, I loved the film. I think I gave it like a 4.5. I think I stand by that. Really, really solid, and I could see how, again, some people would be jarred by the transition into the second half of the film, but I had a great time with it. Definitely want to go back to again and again. And it was great that it was on Netflix, you know, where we could all just watch it at the same time. That was kind of cool. I should have done my review at the time that the film came out, which is why my memory is a little bit hazy on the film in terms of some of the finer details, but I can still recall, you know, the way that those scenes made me feel, especially that chase sequence in the city. In the first half of the film. That was just great. I thought it was fantastic, the way that she was running down the streets and stuff and following the truck, like the way the camera was following the action and stuff. I just was really I felt spirited with the action, you know, that she was chasing down this animal that she loved, that was a part of her family and she cared so much about, that she wasn't willing to just let it be, you know, a done deal where, right, we're taking it away, there's nothing you can do about it, and she's like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I can, you know. It's just kind of a really moving moment where this kid was just like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to do whatever I can, even if when I catch up with that truck I don't know what I'm going to do. But you know, she made the move to just go all out and chase that thing down, and that was my favourite part of the film, I think. So yeah, Okja, great film, not Bong Joon-ho's best, but certainly you know, not my least favourite. I think I prefer this to The Host, which might be controversial. I know a lot of people love that film, but and it is very good, of course, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I really like this. I like the melding of the, you know, the different actors and so on. I thought it was really impressive. So there we go. That's my thoughts on Okja. Let me know your thoughts on the film down below, and your thoughts on Bong Joon-ho in general, and if there are any Korean directors you would recommend to me, etc. We're kind of getting towards the tail end of Asian cinema season now, so there's not much more time for me to fit in more Korean films. I wish I had done more Korean films, and hopefully there'll be one more kind of Korean-centric video coming. In fact, the next guest will be a Korean movie covered, so look forward to that. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause